Hi, how's everyone doing? I'm Jeremy, welcome. I've redone my SOP. I'm kind of redoing some of these topics that I've already kind of done before. I'm not going to change the SOP for a while because I don't want to continuously do the same topics over and over and over again. I need to move on. So what I'm going to do is, if there's anything that I need to change to my little word pad, I'll make a note of it, and then I'm just going to wait, and I'll make changes then. But since this was so early in doing all of this, it's kind of okay that I go back and do all this. So I didn't get a chance to go to that many topics, because whenever I first started doing videos, it was just nothing. It was just me doing videos. I wanted to go ahead and talk about mass shootings. It has been a little while since I've at least done this one. Now, I wanted to talk about it because I came across some videos. We're going to talk, and I'm going to try to keep this close to 30 minutes. That's not going to happen, but wishful thinking. Tim Pool here with his video on May 19th. Arkansas man stops mass shooting and no one is talking about it. Gun owners are winning in many states. Judge Bincy holds up Second Amendment rights. Lawyer explains. So this is a lawyer vlog, Viva Fry vlog. He's a Quebec lawyer, but he's also talking to an American lawyer right here. I forget the guy's name. And then we're going to gun control. Liberals shocked by gun control facts. And I actually looked those up, or at least quite a few of them. Gun expert leaves Congress speechless with gun facts. It's like you do not know that, because as soon as she gets finished talking, they cut it off. And it's like, they weren't left speechless. They said something. I don't know what they're talking about. And also because I saw this video here, and this was a police shootout with a 12-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. We will definitely go over that one. Looks like I've got this one here twice. And I'm doing all of this because I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of politicians manipulating every single little thing out there to use it for their benefit so that they can get more power, more money, just making life worse for everybody. I want things done to the best of our abilities, and in order to do that, we need the best, most accurate information that we can get a hold of. And if you want to make things better, then give this video a like, a thumbs up. I'll have links to all the videos down below in the description, as well as some of these sites perhaps. Usually I don't, though, because most of the stuff is on Wikipedia, and you can see it right here on the video if you really wanted to go look all that up. Then also I have a Patreon and Subscribe Star. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the definition. So last time I did this, I did not have a definition for gun control, but I do this time. Last time it was just fire or mass shootings. So before we get started, I just wanted to again express that I'm not trying to change anyone's minds. Yes, I have strong opinions about all this, but I'm not here to change anyone's minds. This is just, these are the facts that I know. I could be wrong with this stuff, but I'm just here trying to show that there are lies, whether if they're intentional or not. And so if you have any information that you would like to share, especially have links to share with it, leave it in the comment section below. I'll try to take a look at it and add it, and especially whenever you have links, that'll make it easier to kind of deal with, because I don't care about anyone's feelings. Feelings are not facts. Yes, we all feel like that we can do better. Yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious. Now get out of the way and let the adults talk. So the definition of gun control or firearms regulations, I don't like two definitions or two kind of like vocabulary words for the same definition, but I got to thinking about it a little bit, especially whenever I saw this one. gun control or firearms regulations is a set of laws or policies that regulate the manufacture, sale, transfer, possession, modification, or use of firearms by civilians. I'm going to let this one go because it occurred to me that firearms regulations is going to be more of the official terminology, and gun control is kind of more like the slang. So firearms regulation would be something that you would hear politicians and the courts and lawyers talk about. Gun control is just something people are going to just say. It's what you're going to see on the news. And then another definition is mass shootings. And this is one where it's a word salad nonsense thing that's going on here. Depending on who you ask, where you look, mass shootings has a different definition. For some, mass shootings is of 3 or more people. Others, it's 4 or more, or even 5 or more, depending on the source. When it's 3 or more, then the death rate shifts because of gang violence. Why not 3 or less when talking about gun control? Because it depends on how you want to frame the narrative. With this one, I also want to have in there the Constitution of the United States, Second Amendment, because this is where it all kind of revolves around. So with a well-regulated militia, what I'm going to do is government. So a well-regulated militia, that's not a government organization. Whenever the colonies fought against Britain, the militia, that wasn't a group of registered armed voters with their registered firearms. It was just people in the community who got together and said, we're fighting. And they just grabbed what they had and they marched off. And that's the way it's always been. That's what the militia is. The militia is just the town folks, the peasants, the common man going to war or doing skirmishing or whatever the case may be. It's not the military. There's that one movie, The Patriot. It's kind of a mishmash of real history and Hollywood shenanigans. And that's typical of a lot of Hollywood movies where they take history, and they kind of flare it up a little bit. But they showed in that movie pretty clear that they have the U.S. forces and the British forces, and the U.S. forces have militia, and they talk about it all the time, how the militias are kind of cowards. And they'll do skirmishing stuff kind of all night and day, but in an actual battle where there's cannons and cavalry and all that stuff, you can't really rely on them. They're going to run. And they did it in that movie too. And if you know anything about history, yes, that happens constantly. They're not well-trained soldiers. They're not soldiers at all. They're like farmers and sheriffs and blacksmiths and just, kind of anything and everything. So to say that the militia is this government organization, that's a contradiction of the whole purpose of having the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, like many of the amendments, is to grant freedoms to the people. It's not for the government by the government, it's for the people by the people. That's like, we already know that the government can have a standing army and issue weapons and weapons of mass destruction to the military forces. That's the whole reason why this thing's separate. And as we go through, we will take this apart a little bit more on the Second Amendment and what it means. And then, to kind of go along with this, we also have the definition of a militia. And I'm going to put that above. And a militia, from the Webster's Dictionary is part of the... Okay, so B right here is a body of citizens organized for military service. Sometimes it's with the blessings of the country. Sometimes it's not. And I got this from the dictionary right this. And this is something that they can do, that the government will do to call up emergency armed forces. They'll just say, it's kind of like the draft too, but it's also here, right here on definition. So here's a body of citizens organized for military service, and then right here, a private group of armed individuals that operate as a paramilitary force and is typically motivated by a political or religious ideology. Yeah, so it's redundant to say that the Second Amendment is there to give the government this kind of power. It's like, no, it's and then on Wikipedia. There it is here too. Today, as defined by the Militia Act of 1903, the term militia is used to describe two classes within the United States. Organized militia consisting of state defense forces, National Guard, naval militia, and unorganized militia composed of the reserve militia. Every able-bodied man of at least 17 to 45 years of age not a member of the state defense force, National Guard, or naval militia. So it's not just military forces. You know, this one right here is talking about an unorganized military force right there. And then scrolling on down, one of the things that I've added for side A, time to get into that. I did bring in straw mans since I last did this one. And law-obeying citizens have nothing to do with mass murders. So whenever someone's talking about gun control does nothing with criminals because they're criminals. What it only affects law-abiding citizens. It only affects law-abiding citizens that have nothing to do with mass murders. I'm going to go ahead and get into these videos because I need to move on, or this is just going to last forever.
Across the country. We'll lead off with this real quick, but there's a story out of Arkansas about a guy who stops a mass shooting, and I think it's really important to talk about because had this man not have been there, then every outlet would be like, oh no, another tragedy, another mass shooting from a crazy far right white. But he killed, I believe, one person, and then the guy grabbed his rifle and stopped him.
So let's go ahead and take a look at who this person is. They don't give the name, but that's okay. maybe they want to protect the person for some reason from some kind of trolling that's going on. And so this occurrence is May 18th, 2021. This is in, well, I'll go ahead and fill this out and come back to you. All right. On May 18th, 2021, a legally armed man at Fort Smith, Arkansas's apartment stopped a shooter after the killer had shot to death 87-year-old Lois Hicks. And so this would be an occurrence against gun control, because if you were for gun control, this could have taken the weapon out of this man's hands, who was a legal armed person. Gun control wouldn't have done anything for the killer. I mean, he was committing crimes, so he doesn't care. I mean, there's already a law that says that it's illegal to kill. So how does gun control do anything to stop these criminals from having guns? Then on April 2nd, just a little while ago, in 2021, Noah Green, a black man member of a group, Nation of Islam, was at the U.S. Capitol riots, and a police officer was killed and another injured when a man rammed a vehicle, which is his car, into them at a barricade outside the Capitol building on Friday. Seems like politicians will just, and the news media turn it into a novel of the tragedy instead of doing anything worth a damn. He was not on any watch lists. He was insane. He had a poor home life. He was insane. Well, yeah, that's kind of stating the obvious. Let's get rid of the fluff myself. He had a poor home life, lacked values, poor education. Is there anything else that anyone happens to know about him? Then on 3/22/21 in Boulder, Colorado supermarket, killing of Ahmad Allah, however you say his name. He killed 10 people. It was the same thing. He was, I don't know. The Boulder District Attorney said that there was no evidence that they were sold or obtained illegally. That by all accounts it was legal. But he broke laws having them on his person and in his vehicle. Okay, so what's another gun law going to do? So he's already broken 3. So he had him on his person, he had him on his vehicle, and he committed murder. What's another one going to do? Well, what's another law going to do? And then Timothy McVeigh, back in 2001, was an American domestic terrorist. He did the Oklahoma City bombing. It was all just bombs, and he killed a lot of people that day. So 168 people were injured, more than 600. He killed 168 people and injured more than 680 with bombs. You know what? Same thing. Murder was still legal back then too. So was the construction of bombs. You're not allowed to have bombs, not that I'm aware of. Guns, yes. Bombs, no. People do this stuff anyways. Strawman responses: gun control does nothing with criminals. It only affects law-abiding citizens that have nothing to do with mass murders. No one should have ghost guns. They've been around forever. Anyways, I know I made a video going about all this stuff kind of once, but this is going to be part 1. It's going to be part of a playlist. I'm doing a little better today. So.
It's a horrifying event, but I mean, in life, people do crazy things. This can happen. So in looking up the story, I'll jump to it in a second. I looked up constitutional carry in the U.S. And the funny thing is, the gun rights advocates have been winning. Yeah, and I mean like winning.
That was really encouraging too. Before we get into that, I want to get over to this 3-minute video about they brought in these people to read off of a teleprompter about reading facts. This is Fog City Midge, gun control liberals shocked by gun control facts. Sounds like clickbait stuff, but whatever.
Here's how it'll look.
Did you know, according to the CDC, there were roughly 38,000 gun deaths in 2016?
So I wanted to go ahead and look this up to make sure that this was correct. And also here from Time Magazine, they say the same thing right here. In 2016, there were more than 38,000 gun-related deaths in the U.S., 4,000 more than 2015. The new CDC report on okay, and so about 2/3 in America are suicides. I thought this was trash. They have all of these big numbers all over the place, except whenever it says 2/3 are suicides. That's the only number that they spelled it out. Why? Is it because people, whenever they glance over this stuff, are they just kind of looking at the numbers and just kind of speed reading through this, and so they're not going to catch something like that? I wonder. But an Associated Press analysis of FBI data shows that there were about 11,000 gun-related homicides, murders, in 2016, up from, the increase in gun-related deaths follows a 15-year period of relative stasis. I don't care. I mean, it's good to know, but talk about a little snippet of information. Well, why did they go up? What are some of the other factors? Were they men, women, young, old? Were they immigrants, citizens, illegals? What are you talking about? Black, white, short, fat? I mean, tell me some information here so we know what's going on. Were they rich people, poor people? What are you talking about? So how are you supposed to do anything with such vague information? So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And so a little more focused in. In 2016, there were more than 38,000 gun-related deaths in the U.S. Most gun-related deaths, about 2/3, or about 25,000 in America, are suicides. Like, well, all those numbers are bad, but let's get
2/3 of them were suicides.
There are over 300 million guns in the United States.
And I went ahead and looked that one up. Just to get a good idea. Which one? The United States is ranked number 1 globally when it comes to gun ownership. Estimates show that there are anywhere from over 200 million to more than 300 million guns in the U.S. Because of variances in regulations throughout the nation, it's impossible to get an exact number when it comes to total number of guns in the nation and the number of guns in each state. However, the Pew Research Center has compiled data that is about as accurate as it gets. One of the biggest reasons why you can't get an accurate number is because you don't have to do anything if you're doing a personal sale. If you're buying a gun from an authorized dealer, you have to have a background check. There's some steps that you have to do. If you're going to a gun show and you're buying a gun there, you have to go and do a background check. If you go to someone's house and they're just selling a gun, you can just sell the gun. There's no background check. There's no nothing for it at all. And it goes back to the Second Amendment with this stuff. So because there's not a background check, and because you don't have to register your weapons which you shouldn't do because that kind of defeats the Second Amendment. They don't know how many that there are. But we're going to put this one down as a fact from 200 million to 350 million, but take that with a grain of salt, which I think that's why I'm using this one, because that's a pretty large difference between those two numbers, 150 million different. And there we have it, that the United States is rising to number one globally when it comes to gun ownership. I don't think anyone disputes that. Estimates show that there's anywhere from 200 to 350 million guns as of 2021. So let's continue to listen.
There are over 5 times more murders by knives than by rifles.
The U.S. has a high.
All right, so I wanted to look that one. So here, now this is different. That video is in 2018. This is in 2019. And this says 4 times as many people were killed with a knife than any kind of rifle in 2019. The FBI revealed in its Uniform Crime Report released last month. So I don't know if knivings went down or if gun attacks went up. But regardless, if you're concerned about saving people's lives and stopping killings, then where's your knife control stuff? And Britain actually has that. They try to pass laws against knives. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. People, so I worked out there at the prison, and people would just be able to take a little piece of metal off of something and then just kind of rub it against cement because it's just jaded enough that you can put an edge on it, and there you go. You can just, it doesn't even have to be sharp. So you can just use a key and you can stab this at someone. And with the right amount of force, it'll go in, it'll puncture. You can use this as a weapon too. What are you going to do? Ban keys? It would not take very much to even just to file this down and to put a point on it. You can just go outside to the sidewalk and just rub on that hard, rough cement, because cement is a lot like sandpaper, and you can just grind this down a little bit to give it a little bit more of a point, and it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. It's virtue signaling nonsense. Let's continue.
Highest gun ownership rate in the world, but ranks 28th in gun murders.
28th in gun murder. So we do have that number one. We have most. And then here on World Population Review. World Population Review, they had two. They had one graph that was showing deaths, and it ranked America really high because that one also included suicides. But whenever you're just looking at homicide, which is where people are using guns to kill other people, America, they have it listed at a 5.35 homicide rate, and also I think this one's in 2021. I'll scroll up here in a bit. And it's like 18th. And the places where this is the worst, it's all these small little places. You got a population, Russia, a bit of a population in Iraq. Mexico, much smaller than us in population. Brazil, though, Brazil's got a pretty big population. It's up there. Brazil, man, that makes Brazil really scary to go to. Venezuela, though, and South Africa just look horrid right there. So this is murder rate by country as 2021. And yeah, so America, it's up there. And what's this? Oh, the average, the national average is, or the global average is 7.03. Japan is really low. China is really low, and they have a huge population. But all weapons are completely banned. So I wonder what their total murder rate is for everything, because with with knives and swords, it's that has gone up. And I do have that, where I showed that in the last video about The video's title, if you want to look it up for yourself, is called China's Child Targeted Mass Stabbing Crisis, and it's on YouTube. And it's a guy, he's from Australia or from New Zealand. He married a local there in China, and he's showing newspapers showing all of these stabbings that are going on with children. They still have the mass killings, but because it is a little harder to get guns, they just do it by other methods.
That's a rate of 2.97 deaths per 100,000 people.
Yeah, so I think, so this video was done October 5th, 2018, so this is, these, they're probably referring to a different report, because the one I was referring to said 2021.
Handguns are responsible for more than 80% of total mass shootings.
Yep, I had to look that one up too to make sure that we were correct on that too. Let me find it. And this one was from Wikipedia. Weapons used. Several types of guns have been used in mass shootings in the U.S. 2014 study by Dr. James Fox of 142 shootings found that 88 or 62% were committed with handguns of all types. So he didn't do all. He only did 142, and this was a 2014 study. So I don't know which study they're referring to in the video. 68 or 48% with semi-automatic handguns, 14% with revolvers. Maybe that was it, because that's a handgun. And then finally with well, but man, so shootings found that 62% were committed with handguns of all types. Okay, well then 46 with semi-automatic handguns, still handguns, because you can hold it in your hand. 14% with revolvers, which is a handgun too, because you can hold it in your hand. 25% with semi-automatic rifles. Now rifles require two hands. And then 13% with shotguns. So it looks like this is roughly the same. I'm going to put this on. The study was conducted using the Mother Jones database of mass shootings from 1982 to 2018. High capacity magazines were used in approximately half the mass shootings. What do you mean by high capacity magazines? A high capacity magazine for a pistol is not the same for a rifle, and it's not the same for shotguns, which have magazines as well. So, but they all are going to carry different numbers. Semi-automatic rifles have been used in 6 of the 10 deadliest mass shooting events. That means nothing out of content. You know, if those 10 deadliest shootings, if they're way up here and then it drops like a rock off a cliff and you've got the rest, and that means something. But if it's 10 deadliest shootings are here and then all the rest are kind of like right here, or they slowly decline, then that doesn't mean anything to me. You know, is there a huge difference between these 10 and the rest of them? Then it's like, oh, well, okay, then you've got something. But if not, so now we're just going to watch the rest of the video, and I'm just going to comment a little bit here and there.
Between 1993 and 2003, gun ownership increased by 56%, while gun violence decreased by nearly half.
I didn't look it up this time, but I've seen this before. I'm not going to add it since I'm not going to look it up. But from my understanding, yes, this is 100% legitimate. And everything they've had in this video up to this point has been accurate.
Since 1950, nearly all mass public shootings have occurred in gun-free zones.
Yep, I've heard that one, and I've heard that one enough that I am adding that one because that's always a big one, gun-free zones. Again, it's just this word salad nonsense. Well, I feel like if we had a gun-free zone at school, that'd make things safe. I don't care about your feelings. What does the evidence say? Well, where do all these shootings happen? They happen at schools. You know what schools are? They're gun-free zones. So what the hell are you talking about? It's just like saying, well, here's a smorgasbord of opportunity for you to go in there and commit these horrendous acts because nobody there has a gun except maybe this one officer or two officer or whatever. And it's like, so then all you have to do is just find out where that officer is, take them out first, and then you have free reign of the place because who's going to stop you? There's nobody to stop you. So just like what Tim Pool said there at that apartment complex, what really stopped that man from going around from apartment to apartment killing all those people was that there was just someone there who had a gun. So imagine if it was the same thing. So instead of apartment to apartment, it was classroom to classroom. And someone was just able to have a gun there.
From 2013 to 2015, the 6 states that banned open carry actually experienced higher rates of police death.
86.4% of
That kid was like, what? And it's because, yes, if you can't carry a gun and no one has one, the only people who aren't going to have guns are going to be the law-abiding citizens.
20,000 police chiefs and sheriffs support concealed carry and are overwhelmingly against further gun control.
I've heard that one a lot, and I would say that the police chiefs and sheriffs and all this who are for these gun controls, that they are definitely, I bet there's a strong argument that they are more politicians than law enforcers.
Those that have concealed carry permits, on average, commit less crime than police.
All right, so just so that we're clear on this one, people who can hide their guns, they have concealed carry permits, on average, they commit less crime than police officers. Now, now if you understand about statistics and outliers, there's always going to be those fringe wackaloons out there. And again, going to the police academy, that does not mean that you're just automatically a saint after you're done with the police academy, because if so, then every single person should have to go to the police academy. Because you're just going to come out of it being a great, wonderful, moral, high value and characteristics and virtues and all that kind of stuff. You're just going to be a fabulous person, so everyone should go. No, that's not true at all. Because if it was, then of course we would do that. Why wouldn't you do that? If that's all you had to do to put an end to crime was send them through the academy, the police academy, then we would make that a law for everyone to go do it. So I don't know exactly, though, what the correlation, though, is with concealed carry permits, other than, I guess, people who actually go through the process of getting a concealed carry permits, that, of course, they're going to obey the law. They've done all this work to get this far. I guess that's just kind of a way to kind of show that these are law-abiding citizens, because they're doing it all. That they're not breaking the law. They're kind of the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, what does that mean?
There is a clear correlation between higher firearm ownership and reducing police killings.
Well, I would say with that, it's that I hear this with just police kill, or just with killings, period. That whenever, the people around you are more likely to have a gun because it's legal. How inclined are you going to be to start in on some killing whenever you don't know how many people can just pull out a gun and take you out?
Switzerland, a nation of about 8 million, is armed with an estimated 2 million guns in circulation, with limited...
So Switzerland, they talk about this one a lot. With Switzerland, every single man, whenever they either turn 18 or 16, they have to join the military. I don't know if their high school is done at 16. It is with many other countries in the world that they get all that completed before we do, and that's because they have year-round school. They don't have summer vacation like we do. So they wrap all that stuff up. But whenever they're done with high school, they have mandatory military service, and then whenever you're done, you can keep your weapon. Okay, so why isn't it 8 million then instead of 2 million? Because 8 million is the entire population. It's men, women, children, senior citizens, mentally and physically disabled. It's everyone. So you can knock off half immediately because you can say, well, 4 million are men and 4 million are women. And since it's the men who go into the military, well, then that kind of knocks out half your population right there. And then how many of those men there still, though, are just rich and they have private security? They're politicians. There's some, they're a part of some big banking system or whatever. So yeah, 2 million guns in a 4 million population. That's a lot of guns.
Gun legislation.
Switzerland's overall gun homicide rate is practically zero.
That's what I hear all the time too, is that they have like nothing. And again, it's like, why are you going to go out there and start up shooting anybody anywhere whenever it's like almost every single guy that you look at has a gun? You know what they also don't have? They don't have burglaries. Because even though the women and children don't have guns, a dad there who was in the military, big brother who was in the military, they've still got their military issued rifle, because one of the things that you can do is that after you're done with your military service, they give you the option to keep your weapon or not, or maybe they have to. I don't remember, but it's been a while since I've read up on that.
Gun ownership does not correlate with the homicide rate.
Interesting.
Oh, that was interesting. She said that gun ownership rate, that even though you have more guns, doesn't correlate with homicide. So, okay, well, that's good to know.
I haven't done, I just kind of...
And then the last part of the video is just these people talking about how they didn't know this information. It's like, I don't care what they know. And then I wanted to show this video. This is from the YouTube channel called The Officer Tatum. So he was an officer. His last name's Tatum. The name of the video is called Police Shootout with a 12-year-old boy and 14-year-old girl.
This video is brought to you by The Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store. The first link in the description section. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an old story. I saw a few people who got into a shootout with the police. Now, the first thing that I thought was that it was a 12-year-old or 14-year-old who may have gotten a hold of guns and they were just blindly shooting them out of the house.
So what kind of gun control law would have stopped these kids from getting these guns? Kids aren't allowed to have guns in the first place. You're not allowed to commit murder. So there's two things right there. These kids have done nothing to be able to legally get a hold of a firearm. They got these guns illegally, 100%, all the way through and through, no questions about it. So what kind of gun law is going to prevent it? Everything about this is illegal.
Shooting them in air, and the police interpretation of it was that they were getting shot at. However, I was wrong. I listened to the video. I watched the little bit of coverage that was made available. The body-worn camera isn't fully made available. At least I haven't seen it anywhere. But some of the stuff that was reported on the news, they were actually shooting at the cops.
Imagine that. The news was not reporting accurately on the events at hand. Go figure. This is why I get so fed up with the news. That's why I'm doing all this, because I'm going to deal with this nonsense.
Like a standoff for 30 minutes.
So for 30 minutes, they do a standoff. He goes over all of this stuff. You see some video camera footage here, and maybe some news reporters have cameras there. Just talking about what's all going on. And it's the 14-year-old girl that shoots. And she compares it to Grand Theft Auto. It's like, no, it's not. She gets shot 8 times, and she lives.
And firing. So either they came from a family, or they've been watching way too many video games. Get these kids off of these video games.
That's got nothing to do with anything. I've been playing video games since I was little. My friends, my family, all of them, and it's just these kid has they had issues. They were from a foster care home facility. Let's see if we can find where it's
Pregnant, all kinds of stuff.
Okay, here we go.
Kids will leave the facility, open group home, which I do not. There was security there, and somehow they escaped the group home. Which when I was a cop, there was two group homes. There was a secure group home and an open group home. And I'm using my own terminology here. The secure group home, meaning that the kids were locked in, there was security, there were gates, the kids could not get out. It was.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what state he's from, but from Texas. I don't know. We have juvie, but we also have foster care families where they can take in children. I don't know anything about any of that stuff, so if this doesn't sound familiar to you in your state, it's because, yeah, it may not be. I don't know enough. And I don't care as of right now either. So maybe later.
It was like a jail. It was a facility where kids could not get out. And then there was the open group home, which I do not understand for the life of me, how there was such thing as an open format group home, which means that there was no security and that kids can just leave anytime they want to. And I tell you, every night, these kids will leave the facility because they couldn't put their hands on you. They leave.
See, I could not do that job. I could absolutely not. No, I could not do that job at all. That I'm in charge of this facility, in charge of these kids, and that these kids are just going to leave and just go out and do whatever the hell they want. Oh no, man, I'm gonna be bashing some kids up, man. Or more than likely, I guess, really, I would put on bars and locks all over the place. I would find a way to make that happen, one way or another. It's like those kids aren't going anywhere.
Leave the facility, they go do drugs, they go party, they go get drunk, they go and they were being trafficked. They go and get trafficked, and then they come back the next morning. And they made a report every time they left, and we used to have to show up and do a police report every time. The same kids would leave every day, all day, no supervision, going out and getting hurt, drunk, pregnant, all kinds of stuff. How in our society do we think that make any sense to cushion these kids and let them just run wild?
Because of politicians and people saying, well, I feel like it's wrong to put kids in cages. Why? Well, where in the hell does it say that kids are saints themselves? That they're just perfect little beings? That they don't do bad things? What the hell kind of fantasy utopia nonsense do you have going on inside your imaginary world that's just in your mind? Grow up.
Anyway, this is the situation that must have happened here. They escaped. They broke into somebody's house whom had weapons in the house, and then they begin to.
So the whole thing is just tragic. And then at the end, he talks about one thing that he left out of the video, which is something I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it.
The officers did an incredible job. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen because a 14 and 12-year-old shouldn't even be capable of doing these things. And then another shocker in this whole thing is that the AK-47 was disassembled. So one of these kids, or both of them, were smart enough and capable enough to reassemble an AK-47.
Wow, really? Before I joined the military, I didn't know how to assemble an M16. I would have been clueless. Maybe I could have figured. I don't know if the parts were just there. I don't know. Probably not.
And the boy is white, and that's
okay.
When she came out of the house, and so this is them in the surveillance video. You know how that ends, right? I think she got hit like 8 times and lived, which is incredible. But she's white, and the boy is white. And that's why it did make the news, and that's why them having a fire, I don't know, 20-some times at a 14-year-old is not gonna make the news. Because, you know, according to the news, only black people get treated this kind of way. And if it was a white person, they take them out alive.
Oh yeah, I wanted to throw that in that little bit into because I'm gonna do one about Black Lives Matter, and it's like, no, everyone should be treated the same. I don't care who they are. They're shooting at the cops should retaliate. I don't give a damn who it is. Even if it's little kids, and it sucks, but it's, I don't want the cops to die either. It's not the cops' fault. It's just one of the unfortunate things that we have to deal with, and we're doing a pretty horrible job with it. I need to go ahead and wrap this up. It's getting pretty long. This is one of these videos or topics where there is no side A or side B, and it's because there are some points where you cannot defute them. There's nothing to say against these, at least from my understanding, from what I know as of this moment, there is nothing. And so I am against all of these gun control movements. And you can boil it down pretty well to two questions. Is how would it have changed things? If you passed this gun legislation, how would it have really have changed? And if for some reason, if they are able to answer that question legitimately, it still doesn't change the second question, and that is, how does it stop the criminals? Because that's what every last one of these people are who goes out and they do these mass shootings. They are murderers. Murder is already illegal. So how does it stop criminal activity? If they can't get past those two questions, nothing else matters. You have to make it past those two questions. I don't care what else you have to say. I don't care how nice and how pretty it sounds. If you can't get past those, you better have something. So, but we will go into it more. We will flesh this out. A lot of side A is going to be a bunch of straw men. For example, whenever they say guns, and they just want to say guns instead of, well, no, it's not AR-15s, it's handguns. I really wanted to get into the one with the lawyers here, but down here at the bottom, I do have next for what I want to do next regarding this topic. I really need to stop going over so much of this, but before I didn't make it a part one to be part of on YouTube. I have the choice to be able to create a playlist and do it. I do not have any kind of option like that, at least that I'm aware of. It doesn't have that for Rumble or Bitchute. You as a user can create a playlist, but as a creator, there's no playlist function. At least I haven't seen it. If you do know of a creator playlist function, especially for Bitchute, let me know. If you've got a video that I could watch on it, or just give a really detailed explanation to it, I would appreciate that. If you like this and you're tired of the lies and all this made sense to you, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe and become a member. This other video though, with this gun expert leaves Congress speechless with gun facts, it's about 5 minutes long. She brings up some points. I'll kind of roughly go over this one. I don't know how much in detail I'll go about it. But one of the things that the people on the left who are for gun control, they'll say, well, you don't need bump stocks and pistol grips and all this stuff. And the argument for having this stuff is that, no, you actually want this stuff. You live in clown world, because what these things do is that they make it easier for you to be able to handle and control the weapon. So then that way, if you are defending yourself or your home or your family, that you're not going to miss your target, that you're going to be able to line up your shots better, you're going to have better control over your gun, your aim, all that stuff. And that's what these things, a lot of these things are designed to do. Even whenever it's like things that don't leave your fingerprint, part of that also helps with your grip so it doesn't slip out of your hands. It's like whenever you're a law-abiding citizen and you're defending yourself or defending others or whatever, you want to be able to have as much control over that weapon as possible. You know, it's a difference between a sniper using a sniper rifle and a shotgun being shot and blasting pellets out all over the place, hitting everybody. It's like, that's not what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Thanks a lot for watching, and we will catch you later. Bye.